In 1776, John Dickinson drafted a proposal for a national government. And in 1777, Congress sent a weakened version of this document, the Articles of Confederation, to the states for ratification. The Articles reserved to each state its sovereignty, freedom, and independence. Americans, under the Articles, were citizens of their state first and the United States second. John Adams later explained that the Whigs never thought of consolidating this vast continent under one national government, but instead had created a confederacy of states, each of which must have a separate government. Under the Articles, the national government consisted of a unicameral Congress elected by state legislators, in which each state had one vote. One of the biggest challenges facing the new nation under the Articles of Confederation was putting the nation on solid financial footing. Winning the Revolutionary War had cost $160 million, far more than taxation could raise. The government borrowed from abroad and printed paper money called continentals. But from 1776 to 1791, a lack of public faith in the new government destroyed 98% of the continentals' value. They had serious inflation issues. Another challenge the new government under the Articles had to deal with was the post-war settlement and the administration of Western lands. The Ordinance of 1785 and the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 were the Confederation's major contributions to American life. It set the principles for surveying the frontier. It allowed for territorial self-government at an early stage of settlement. It set reasonable qualifications for statehood. It set models for organizing territories west of the Mississippi River, and it established principles for banning slaves from certain territories. As a whole, the southern states and the mid-Atlantic states were enjoying rising prosperity, thanks to tobacco and food exports, and they were paying off their war debts. Mid-Atlantic farmers actually grew more prosperous from exporting grain to famine-stricken areas of Europe. Despite the fact that New England had been in a depression since 1784, Massachusetts was dominated by commercially minded elites, and the Massachusetts legislature voted in 1786 to pay off its revolutionary debt, which meant a huge rise in state taxes. Adding to the difficulty in Massachusetts was a shortage of specie, gold and silver coin, that bankers, merchants, and tax collectors demanded. The year before, farmers had begun to default on their taxes and mortgages, and they were being jailed or their farms were being repossessed. And then, in 1786, in Springfield and Worcester, farmers began holding meetings and started protesting by setting their neighbors free or closing the courts by force. Momentum built for this protest movement, and in western and central Massachusetts, citizens organized an army under Daniel Shays. He was a Revolutionary War hero and a hard-pressed farmer. Shays led almost 2,000 angry men in an attempt to shut down the courts and prevent foreclosures and tax auctions to capture Springfield Arsenal military supplies. The state militia defended the arsenal and caught up with Shays' retreating army. And the Massachusetts legislature, they acquitted all but Shays and his co-leader Luke Day. But in the next elections, 1787, Shays' followers won control of the Massachusetts legislature, they cut taxes, and they secured a pardon for Shays. Other rebellions arose, and although Shays' rebellion never raised a serious threat of anarchy, critics of the Confederation used Shays' threat to seize weapons from a federal arsenal to point out how vulnerable to rule by mob the United States really was. Shays' rebellion hit home the fact that the Articles were inadequate. The weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation included amending the document. 13 out of 13 states needed to amend. Conducting diplomacy, each state could do whatever it wanted. Controlling trade between states, no provision existed to regulate interstate trade. Levying taxes was another one. Congress could only request states to pay taxes, but could not demand states to do so. Passing laws was an issue. 9 out of 13 states needed to approve legislation. Raising an army. Congress could not draft troops, but was dependent on states to contribute forces. And resolving disputes between states, that caused a very complicated system of arbitration to exist. Representation in states, each state received just one vote regardless of size. And there was also a unicameral legislature. And no executive branch. Thus, the Articles created a national government with a legislature, but no executive branch and no judicial branch. And sovereignty resided in the states. Be sure to read this over, your textbook over, and watch this video again, and do all the questions.